Leveling Up is about a surprising journey that Justin and Will from Lancaster Bible College went on. It started with just a desire to manage digital learning in a better way, but instead they were able to transform it in a significant way. Could you guys kind of discuss the situation you found yourselves in when you started your positions there at Lancaster Bible College?
Yeah, thanks, Adam. So when I was hired, this is Will, I was hired as a department assistant, and some of the reasons that I was brought in were to really help with our previous learning management system to fill in the gap for where, creating courses, building shells, distributing course evaluations. It was a lot of manual work, and I was dealing with some hundreds of courses at a time. And a lot of that was just kind of committing myself to tech support. It was working with the LMS, making sure it kept working, not really helping the professors in any educational method, but just kind of, okay, something's broken, let's fix it, or I need more courses, can I get those? Yep, gotcha. That was really where I started. You Justin?
Yeah, so I came from the K-12 world, teaching high school, and I was really kind of growing a passion to continue my own teaching career, but also to invest in others teaching and help them teach more effectively. And so looked like a position like that, so I moved my family across the state, and ready to start this new adventure. And I got here and kind of had a bit of a crisis, to be honest, because here I am a couple months into it, and I'm fixing an LMS, or I'm helping people. I'm learning how to use it, and then helping people fix it. And I don't consider myself a techie by nature. I can work with it, but I really had some problems. So I thought, I want to help people teach. I could care less about fixing quiz settings, because there's so many things that could have gone wrong. It's just a very complex LMS. So for me, it caused significant problems. And I really was eager to get past that to talk about actual pedagogy through those digital means.
And that's really like early on. We were both hired in 2014, and we kind of had a pretty solid crew at that time. We just realized we were limited by our LMS. We did not have the bandwidth to do more than just fix courses.
I think the thing becomes too is that Will and Justin, you guys are really great users. You have a great story, and it was almost like you could see where you wanted to go, but it was the task, even as you were saying, Will, the amount of effort that would have to be spent to get there was almost insurmountable. And that's what really led you guys to kind of the switch, which is switching over to Schoology, where now it changes the whole kind of dynamic. I really even love how you both kind of have said that, it changed what your overall position was, because now you're focused on the pedagogy, you're focused on the teaching practices of the instructors and not on all the various tasks that you had to do before. But at this point, I do want to turn it back over to you, Justin and Will, just so they can talk through 5 ways that you guys are really leveling up there in Lancaster.
Yeah, so our number one step here, first step, is empowering yourself to empower others. And one of the first things that comes to mind here is we're a relatively small institution, and about 2,000 students. So in higher ed, it's on the smaller end. And our office is quite small, more specifically. And that's not necessarily, that's a common thread, I think, for many institutions. And so one of the things we've had to look at is how do we affect the most change with a small crew. We don't have many dollars to throw at some of these things. So how do we maximize that? And so we've been trying to, at this stage, create as many sort of resources and supports that empower faculty to take action on their own. So some of that's looked like a monthly newsletter. Will and I started doing a video podcast, which includes interviews, how-to tips. As Schoology releases new features, we highlight those, do a brief training, throw a bit of humor in there from time to time to keep it light. Just trying to produce just-in-time resources. Anything we can do to maximize our impact for our faculty, so they don't need to necessarily come and find one of us and sit down for an hour and figure out how to do something. That we're ready for that. We're willing to do that. But we found that empowering faculty to do these things on their own has been a really helpful approach for us, being so small.
And we kind of learned that by experiencing it. When we came on to Schoology, there was enough consistent implementation support to get us going, but Justin and I quickly connected with the Twitter community. with, you know, Justin went the first year to Schoology Next, and I went the second year. Like, it was very helpful for us just to get involved and get empowered ourselves. And so what did we do? We reached out to the Schoology Exchange and we read the blogs. We looked into Schoology Support's documentation and caught up on the information. We looked into the research in the sciences, the research sciences on education and pedagogy shifting, and where are we today as a industry. We did that, and it's worked for us as we've improved and as we've gained a new perspective. And so that's our mentality. We're putting that back out to our faculty, and there's some cool initiatives that we'll talk to, I think, more with levels 4 and 5 that we're doing here to get our faculty reproducing that, not just even pushing it out to them, which is helpful. You know, it's creating that wide base, but you gotta get them to take it on and own it.
I'll say too, just to give you a couple for instances, we've got professors, especially with the upgraded assignment tool, it is recently upgraded here for us. We have professors that are providing better feedback because now they've seen, oh, I can give feedback through Schoology. It's allowed us to speak and to say, well, hey, there's good ways to give feedback. It is a wonderful opportunity for this and for that, and so we have had massive improvement. And our students are just buzzing about it. That our professors are giving extensive, personalized feedback, helping the students think about their own thinking. And so even just using the tools we have within the assignment grader is well for myself. And this is an experience a number of professors have used. I've used Schoology's updates feature to post other articles, even funny YouTube videos I find that are related to class, post those in the updates in between classes. So this is an on-campus course, by the way, that I had this semester, and I've had a number of students come up to me and say, Professor Harmon, this is amazing. Like, we feel like you're extending the conversation outside of the classroom. That learning just doesn't happen when we're together. They're finding things, which is really exciting to me. They're finding things that relate to class that may be humorous, or that may just be a good article or something. And they're extending our conversation, and that has been incredibly valuable. And we often then take time at the beginning of next class to talk about that, to discuss, hey, how did that make you think differently about this, or what have you?
One of our early adopters as well, she works in our social work department, and so one of her activities that she's had her students do is to kind of experience what it is to live on welfare and things like that. She says each of them take X amount of dollars. It's like $1.50 or $2, I forget the exact amount. You have to go out for a day and try and live on that much money. And so that's a great learning experience. And we kind of got to catch up with her and hear about that. And we said, hey, how are you documenting that? She goes, oh, they write something down and hand it to me in class. So what about using a media album? Why don't you send them out there with their phone so that they have to document the experience and take photos of what they're buying and show what their meals were for that day, and maybe even use that to reflect on what their experience is, how they're feeling about that process of going through that. So here she's flipping the classroom in many ways. She's putting them into situated learning experiences, but we're also equipping her with Schoology to kind of take that and take it to another level, bring some media to it, and connect the students in a way that they want to engage with it.
And I think what you said there at the end really just summarizes this so well for me, that it's what essentially you're doing is that you're not creating hoops that you're wanting people to jump through. You're providing the opportunities that these users have always wanted. Yep. That wasn't available before.
All right, so giving more so students expect more. As we have exit interviews with students, with seniors, anecdotally, almost every other day we're hearing from students or through professors or directly that as some professors have been using Schoology in amazing ways, they're starting to say, this is awesome. Why aren't my other professors doing it? Mm-hmm. And so we're starting to see a shift in the culture of, because the students are starting to expect more, and they're realizing all that this entails for them. This is an amazing enhancement to their education. They are starting to demand it from other professors who have been slow to adopt. And it's been a positive thing. I don't mean to say that negatively. But it has helped us to bring along some of those who are kind of lagging behind a bit, and it's helped them to see, oh wow, I'm not with the times. My colleagues are doing this. I need to step up. So
I taught a class at one point, and one of the cool experiences for me with Schoology is that I've been both a student and a teacher and an admin in it. I took some classes at the grad level from our institution, and I got to experience it that way, and then I taught in it, and etc. When I taught in it, I at the mid-semester took PDF examples of the students' grade reports at that time and emailed it to them ahead of time. Just said, hey, this is where you're at. I know you can access this every day, but I want you just to have that direct communication. Here's an opportunity. Do you feel like you're down on something that you want to improve? Do you feel like you're doing well and you want to talk about how that's working for you? I created that conversation with them, and the students said, several of them replied, none of my professors do this. This is awesome. Thank you for reaching out at the mid-semester and making that touch point with me. And that wasn't about Schoology. That was about the way that I was approaching my classroom and being willing to teach them. And that's raising the bar for the rest of their faculty at LBC. One of the other ways, though, that I really like, one of the anecdotes that's kind of come through here for us, is that Schoology is becoming, I'd like to say, like a living syllabus. For our faculty members who are using it, you know, full time, if you will, the students very rarely go back to the syllabus anymore when they're going in their learning experience. They keep up with the, you know, we call it the eCampus. They keep up with their eCampus course page because that they know that the due dates are up to date. They know that the assignments that have been dropped are good and the ones that have been added are there, right? Things that used to happen, you know, with the syllabus, you know, had to print 16 copies for all your students every 2 or 3 weeks with an update to the schedule or whatever. The students just expect it to happen in their course page. They expect the calendar to be correct. They expect the grades to be correct. And when they reach out and there's an issue, you know, the faculty are immediately willing to remedy that. They recognize that there's a value of that relationship, that if they keep up their end, the students are more willing to continue and they're encouraged by that relationship. So we're really, you know, you see some of the bullet points, we're elevating those expectations. That's great. The learning experiences are becoming something that the students are interested in and want to have. You know, we never had a student talk to us about how good Moodle was. We were walking the campus as much then as we were now, but students will stop us and say, thanks for what you do with Schoology. I'm so thankful for that.
All right, so the next one, I know, Justin, you talked about this in some of our previous conversations, was about encouraging social learning. Can you talk a little bit about this one?
Yeah, so social learning is a major priority for us. We have a wonderful community on our campus. We're known for that. We're drawing students because of it to our undergraduate experience, and so that was a high priority for us. There's a faith-based institution. It's also compatible and empowered by learning science as well. We notice that community matters, and people are inherently social. We learn through social means, and so that's what initially drew us to Schoology. It seemed that way, but now that we've lived with it, we've been with it, it has certainly been that. So to give an example for my classes, obviously I want my students to be thinking about their own thinking, to be regulating their own learning. And so I've got activities and journals and things like that where they're doing that, but I really want to see them take the next step to what we call co-regulation. I want to see them helping each other think about their own thinking, and then maybe eventually, maybe someday we get to this socially shared, this idea that there's an obligation I have to my learning community, where my students are looking out for each other and really trying to make sure everyone understands. And so we've been able to use Schoology as a platform for that. As I have group projects, I always give them a digital form, even though they're on campus. I give them a place on my website for them to collaborate, whether it's a discussion forum or things like that. And we've got them using I often use a ticket out the door or an exit ticket, depending on what area you're from. You might use these, and traditionally we do them on a 3x5 card, but you can use it in Schoology as well. And what's really cool is you start to see students answering each other's questions as they post either a clearest or a muddiest point after a lesson. And then I can look at it and see all that text that they've been writing back and forth and see, are there any gaps in their understanding? And I start to see them helping each other, which is really exciting. Then when we meet again face to face, we can start to make sure everyone's in the same playing field. And now students are appreciating each other's expertise as well, and starting to know, hey, this guy's the go-to guy for this, and they start to identify their own place within the classroom. That's a really special thing.
Justin's talking a lot to his classroom experiences, which I think do model even and represent many of our faculty now that are using Schoology. But we also have online experiences that are going on that are really taking it to the next level. We produce online classes and one of them is a Hebrew, an ancient language study of Hebrew. And one of the ways that professor was struggling with how he was teaching his students is they can't see the language, they can't hear it, right? It's all just text, and maybe he could get some videos or whatever. We used Big Blue Button with that professor. He gave classroom time every Thursday night, recorded it with, you know, the 7-day feature or whatever, so that his students could watch it over the next week. And he did synchronous learning with his students. And that's just, again, a representation of several other experiences with our online courses where we've got them learning together, even digitally. You know, Justin's taking it in the classroom and he's taking it out of the classroom, and this is just completely in the digital classroom. And that leads to our last point of meshing digital learning with the real world. We feel that they are integrated. Digital learning and the real world today, it's our jobs. We come to work every day and we work digitally, even though we're in a physical location. So we want to take that to the next level and really kind of mesh those experiences. And we're modeling that in our jobs with our faculty and the faculty for the students. The next slide is going to show an example where our faculty are doing this themselves, right? We have the students doing it, but this slide you're seeing now is our updates page in our faculty eCampus guide, where the faculty ask their questions and respond to one another. I'll tell you, in probably the first 4 here, I've only responded to one of those faculty members, right? They've responded to each other. They're liking each other's posts and things like that. So social learning's happening throughout the gamut here at LBC, and we're really thrilled to see the improvements we've made there.
So the fourth one, and I know that we're running out of time here, but the fourth one was putting innovation always within reach. What was the significance of this level for you guys?
Well, one of the tough things was, you know, before with Moodle, it was really unattainable, and people didn't feel that they felt like it was some foreign language. They felt it was a software beyond them. One of the things that we're really trying to do is bring to them pedagogical stuff that's in layman's terms, that is helpful, and that's directly related to what they're trying to get to. I'll be honest, I'm not going to take my first-time Schoology user professor and give them some sort of interesting structure for a project-based learning environment in a discussion with an embedded Google Doc. Like, it's not something that's going to work for that faculty member. So we're really trying to say, okay, where are you and what can we do for you? The examples of this in practice are, you know, years before we had to do tech support with our summer training. Our summer trainings were dedicated to, all right, meet with us, sit with us, here's how to click there, do this, come over here, what's your question, what broke? 2016 was a great summer for us where we just spoke to pedagogy. How can you teach with mobile technologies better? How can you use the grade book to improve your classroom and management? How can all these different topics that we addressed really just kind of said, okay, we're going to be the filters for you of the complicated stuff. Sit with us, listen to us, and we're going to help you kind of take the next step just with a simple step, you know, for you. Put your grading categories in and weight them. There we go, step one. And for some people, that's like, really? Come on, that's simple. And other people, that is innovation. And I've been just as happy to work with those folks who come through it and smile on the other end as I am with the person who is doing that project-based learning experience where they're trying to integrate a discussion in Google embedded document. It's both successful, and they're both examples of how we're meeting people where they are to help them innovate and move forward.
Yeah, I would say we've been doing a lot of research lately, and one framework I would really recommend if you're considering any sort of innovation, new initiative like shifting to another LMS, Rogers' diffusion of innovations theory has been one that it's more recent for us to kind of stumble across, but it has been incredibly helpful, and it describes characteristics of that make an innovation likely to be adopted by faculty. And so if we look at kind of some of those things, how do we get faculty to adopt this? Just to give you a few, they need to feel like they can do it. They need to feel like it's within their capabilities. They need to feel like your institution is going to commit long-term to this. That's important. If I'm a faculty member, I've been around for a while, I've seen a few things come and go and fail, and I need to know if I'm going to put effort into it, this thing's going to stay. I think as well that faculty need to see that this sort of a shift towards pedagogy rather than tech, just by itself or for tech's sake, is something that is consistent with the missions and goals of higher education or K-12 education. It is something that education's always been about or been about for many years. And it's just like, this is just consistent. We haven't changed. This is who we always have been. We're just trying to do it better. Mm-hmm. That's been a key for us.
Yeah.
And so once we've got that initial buy-in, like Will was saying, start small. Here's a discussion forum. Here's an assignment. Now we've got people doing collaborative note-taking through an embedded Google Doc, in an assignment. And school, one thing Schoology does so well is it gives you a platform to plug and play third-party tools, unlike our other LMS. And just to reiterate, that piece of research I was referencing was Everett Rogers' Diffusion of Innovations Theory. It's a wonderful book. The most recent version's 2003, I think. Highly recommend that if you're looking at, what does it mean to bring innovation, and it's often been used for technology as well. So I think appropriate here.
Well, and that pulls us around to our, I guess, last way to level up. And this is a little bit, we leave it for last because it's kind of where we are. We're taking this step now. Some of the things you've seen us do so far, we've implemented. We've seen improvements on. Our faculty are coming to things more frequently. They are coming to things in the summer more frequently because we've valued them. We have made them easier to attain. We provided web options and face-to-face options. And we have locations in several different states, even international. And so that's really important that we make sure that it's as democratic as possible. We want to put it out there for everyone. Now, number 5 here, encourage sustained reflection on pedagogy and practice. I'm again going to tee Justin up for this because they've got some things that are coming forward, but I'll just say real quick, this is what I've gone through as a metamorphosis of a practitioner. I was the tech support. I was the person running the LMS just to do techie stuff. And Justin and those guys in my office have kind of mentored me and pulled me into this idea of how can I make sure that my tech tools are educational? How am I not just belaboring someone with something new they can do and make it pedagogically relevant? And as I reflect on that, I'm experiencing this. And so, Justin's kind of working on a program coming up for us that's going to take us to the next level at LBC.
Yeah, so and again, to reiterate, this is next level stuff. Our first version of what I'm about to describe will hopefully be operational by July, but realistically, to really see something become a well-oiled machine, it's going to be a couple years to do what I'm about to explain. So the task that was given to us by our director was to create a comprehensive faculty development program for onboarding new faculty. We have tons of adjunct faculty. How do we have in higher education, you have a lot of adjuncts for teaching for 6 different institutions. How do I show them this is what it means to teach for LBC and to give them our culture? And so the first piece is really related to onboarding, and we thought, well, what's the best way to teach people how to use the LMS? And because many of our adjuncts are not familiar with this, so we would like to use scenario-based learning, kind of weave a narrative, so that coupled with all the instruction, they're placed in scenarios. Hey, a student just messaged you. How do you respond to it? And to kind of weave a narrative out of it so it's in a situated context. And so it's one less hurdle they have to go through 6 days later when they're teaching the course, and they have to go back and, oh, how did I do that again? Well, they've already kind of practiced it. The second piece is just-in-time training. So a whole suite of resources. Once professors have gone through that onboarding training, to go, and we'll have all sorts of different items, quick how-to videos, and hey, here's how you create a discussion forum in case you forgot. Those sort of resources, all the way to self-paced training modules on instructor presence in online courses and more advanced things like that. So we're going to kind of have a whole full suite, and we're always going to be trying to create something dynamic and comprehensive there. Finally, the thing I'm most excited about is to create ongoing, like we said here, sustained reflection on pedagogy and practice. So we've taken the idea of a faculty learning community, which you may or may not be familiar with, but we've begun to send out surveys and identify faculty members across our disciplines who want to be mentors. And they say, hey, I can do this really well, and I want to help other people do that. And we're creating a platform for a number, I'm not sure how many at once yet, but a number of ongoing faculty learning communities where 5, 6, 10 faculty members identify a shared problem of practice related to digital learning, and then they all put their heads together and they work on that. And the beautiful thing about that is our office is going to provide the platform, but it's the faculty leading the faculty. And we may step in and lead those from time to time as well, but we really want faculty mentors to be leading these ideas. And the whole concept is that we're never done. We're lifelong learners, and we're never going to rest on our laurels. We're always trying to be the best teachers we can be. And so allowing them to put their brilliant minds together to solve problems that they all share will hopefully draw our own faculty community together as well and break down, some of those silos that can happen amongst our disciplines. And so that's our big vision for what we'd like this to become, in addition to the just-in-time resources and kind of that onboarding, here's how to use Schoology within something of a narrative.
And just for clarification, that is just in 2 words, not just in time, right?
There you go. Although if you want to call it just in time, I'm not going to complain.
I think when we were talking earlier, I think this was one of the things I was most excited to hear about the practice that you guys are undertaking there, because the more that we as instructors, we as system admins, even as students, if we're reflecting on what's happening, I think we get better outcomes, and it's exciting to see you guys moving that direction. Now, for the sake of the webinar, I just want to recap the 5 things really quickly, just in a short amount of time. First off, they were really wanting to empower themselves so that they can empower others. And once that empowerment happens, you start seeing students expecting more things like social learning, things like doing tasks that were never before possible. And as they continue to reflect upon their process, they're continuing to make great strides.